check if everything's working fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can start. Let me check if everything's working fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us know if everything is working fine. I will sit back into my original position here. And yeah, let us know. Let us know if everything is working fine on both of our ends. Video, sound quality. Hölgyek, urak, tudassátok velünk, hogy minden jó-e hangminőség, videóminőség, és akkor kezdhetünk. Let us know, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know. Let us
Check,
know.
check.
Mic check, mic check. Yeah. Let us know. Let me know. Let me know. I will also check it if people would be lurking, then I will check it myself. Hölgyek, urak, tudassátok velünk, hogy jó-e minden, és kezdhetünk-e. Let us know if everything is working correctly. There is no lag. Yesterday I had some internet issues as well, so please let me know if there is no FPS drop. Yeah, we are moving our hands together.
Smooth.
Yeah,
Everything looks smooth.
Hopefully. I will check it myself real quick because I think that.
Guess I'm not gonna move that much.
Yeah. It was so annoying, by the way, yesterday that I had this internet issue. Like it, when people are paying so much money for the internet to be stable, but it's like one click and it's like going down on the rabbit hole. Okay, they are saying that everything is fine on both of our ends.
Cool.
So please let me know, dear Paul, if we can start. If you're up.
I'm ready. Nice. I'm ready when you are.
Nice. So welcome everyone in the very new episode of my Dev Live show. I'm today joined with Paul, who is an awesome music composer in the video game industry. I hope that I pronounce your name right. Let me know if not.
You can say Paul, you can Paul, whatever you prefer.
Okay, thank you for that. And yeah, I'm very honored that you joined us for today's episode. And like I'm always saying, let's start with a little bit of introduction. So please introduce yourself for us.
Hello, I'm Paul or Paul Zimmermann. I'm based in Germany, in Hamburg, Germany, in northern Germany. And I'm a composer for games. I've been writing for games for quite some time. I think by now it's around 6 years. I've been doing it full time.
Okay.
And around 10 years in general, but yeah, it took a while to get to a point where I could earn a modest living, let's say. Yeah, and I work on a lot of different genres of games.
Okay.
Mostly I work in indie games, is kind of my current niche, you could say, maybe. Yeah, and the games are quite varied from, let's say, sci-fi space games to fantasy roguelike deck builders to maybe more narrative-based games.
I see.
Kind of a mix of everything in there.
I see. Thank you for that. Okay, so my very first question would be, what was your very first contact, if you remember those times of yours, as a player with video games?
Oh, my very first contact, probably when I was around 8 or 9. Okay. I think the Game Boy, I think, might be the first thing I came in contact with. It was the Game Boy. What was the name? It wasn't a color. It was just the Game Boy, I think.
Advance or Advance SP? Yeah, because
no, even older.
okay.
The black and white version, basically.
Okay.
I think it's just Game Boy.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think it's just Game Boy, and that's kind of where I started, and then kind of upgraded to Game Boy Color, and that's when I first played like games like The Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
I think it was the first Zelda I played was, I think, Oracle of Seasons.
Okay.
And yeah, that really left a lasting impression on me, I think, to this day. And yeah, from there, kind of like just a natural progression to other consoles. But mostly consoles and stuff was mostly at friends' houses.
I see.
I didn't really have a console until quite later on in my life. I would usually go to my friends' places and play PlayStation there, and the usual games like Grand Theft Auto and like GTA 2, GTA Vice City, whatever, inappropriate titles for young adolescent person,
But
probably.
we love those,
Uh,
right? And we didn't
yeah,
became
and
a serial killer, so or a bank
no, for
robber,
sure.
so
It's
yeah,
also, to me, it's also always funny when back in those days, like a game like GTA Vice City was so, I don't know, maybe controversial, but if you look back at it today, I mean, the graphics and everything is just so funny in a way.
true,
It's not really gory. It's
true,
just
true, true, true,
hilarious
true,
actually.
true,
But
true.
back in the day, I guess it was
And back in the
cutting
day,
edge.
people did not care that much that it has like a lot of bad stuff in it. We could say nowadays, I think that it's more like people are, you know, this ongoing hate train of like, you know, you can't have blood in your game, or you can't have like something about
Oh, okay.
politics or love or sex or drugs or anything. But back then, those
Yeah, I guess.
games had it all, right? So and nobody cared
Right.
about it, in my opinion. Like,
I mean, I guess who might have cared were like maybe parents and stuff. Like, I
yeah,
think if my parents would have known all the kinds of games I would have played, they might have not been so
true,
thrilled.
true, true, true.
But like you say, it didn't turn us into crazy
True,
people. And
true, true.
if anything, I have quite fond memories of those games, and they didn't make me want to go become a drug dealer in
True, true,
Miami
true.
or
True, very true, yeah.
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 If anything, they want made me want to work in games
True,
and write music for games and stuff like that. So in the end, it turned into a profession, into a career of sorts. So
true.
I can always say, see, it's not as bad as you made it out to be.
Very true, very true, very true. Okay. So that was for the first contact with video games as a player, but what was your very first contact with music before you became a professional music composer?
Mm, oh, that's also a good question. I mean, my first contact probably also was when I was very young,
I
and
see.
I didn't. I mean, I didn't really start playing an instrument
Okay.
until I was around 15 or 16,
I
I would
see.
say. But I would listen. I mean, at first, I would listen to all kinds of even cassettes back then and CDs that my parents would also listen to. So it wasn't really like I wasn't at a point where I had my own complete taste, where I
I
would
see.
go out.
I see.
I
I
would
see.
just listen to what was available around the house and kind of develop my taste, maybe
I see.
my sensibilities out of that. So I would listen to a lot of instrumental music. Interestingly enough, when I was younger, I would listen to Mike Oldfield, who is
Okay.
quite well known for one-piece tubular bells, which was used in the Halloween movies. I think
Okay.
was it. It is a very famous. I mean, they only used like a small portion because the whole track is super long, and I also listened to Jean-Michel Jarre, who is a
Okay.
quite famous, I guess, synth pioneer.
Okay.
Yeah, and then as I got a little bit older into my teenage years, you could say I started to get into like rock music and metal and stuff like that. Like bands like System of a Down was quite big for me. Like, and that's kind of where I started listening and wanting to play an instrument
I
as
see.
well.
I
Like
see.
band music, rock and metal, Metallica, Iron Maiden, System of a Down, all those kind of bands got me kind of inspired to want to play an instrument. And I started with the bass
I see.
because that was something that was in the house. My mom used to play electric bass when she was
Oh, nice.
younger. Yeah, and then she didn't. Well, she got kids and stopped stopped all the band stuff. So the bass was just sitting around in the house the whole time.
I see.
And she also never like encouraged me or told me or said, "Here, you should try play this" and stuff like that. It was kind of like my own interest developed over time,
I
and I
see.
think that's also why I started maybe comparatively to some other people a bit later, around
I
15,
see. I
16.
see.
Yeah, and that's when I started playing bass, wanting to play metal, rock, and everything, and all these things. I wanted to have a band and had some bands. And I guess when you're younger, you have all these aspirations of becoming like a rock star,
True,
maybe,
true,
or
true, true, true. Yeah.
touring the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, I mean, while I was doing that, I always enjoyed writing music anyways.
I
So
see.
it wasn't really writing music for something specific yet, but it was just little compositions in very old music software at the time,
I see.
just trying things out. And yeah, eventually the as we get older and the whole band thing kind of, I mean, I realized, okay, that's not something I'm gonna really make into a job
I
probably.
see. Would
And
you
I
like
had a
to
band.
do? Would you like to do?
Not anymore.
I see.
No. I mean, back then I'm sure I would have jumped at the opportunity if it came by.
I see.
But as I got older, I enjoy my time in my own little cave.
More calm, yeah.
Yeah, it's more calm. I work by myself, and
I see.
it's quite relaxing like that. And sometimes I still get to play live with a few bands, not my own bands, but I might jump in as a bass player for them, and that is fun. But it's not something that I really want to do anymore
I see.
because yeah, it can be quite exhausting, and you really, I mean, not to say that writing music for games and making a living out of that is not exhausting, but yeah, the band stuff was even more so exhausting, especially as you're always in a group of maybe 3 people or 4 or 5 sometimes, or even whatever. You always have to coordinate with so many different individuals, and everyone's plans and life goals has to kind of align.
True, true, true.
And I think that kind of works or worked for us when we were in school and when we were in uni maybe. And then as you kind of get older and everyone has plans of, yeah, I want to maybe have a career or wife and kids or maybe buy a house or an apartment at some point, then those kind of priorities shift in a way
True.
that I think it makes it harder for people to stay in a group
True. Very true. Yeah.
and
Sadly, I would
pursue.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's sadly because I'm sure a lot of great musicians or bands kind of didn't get the chance
True. True.
to develop or to continue on just because there's a lot of financial
Very true.
pressure in the
It's
end. Like
sad
we
at the
have to
end
survive.
because I believe that a lot of us, and especially I believe that all of us have some talent and some skills that we could develop throughout our life. It's just like you said. Sometimes it's just ends up being this goal of like being this person who needs to provide, right, and to have this house,
Yeah.
family, everything that society wants us to be, which is on one point is understandable. On the one point, I think it's very sad because these people end up not chasing and pursuing their dreams, and they will be like these burns out empty people at the end of the day when they get to their, I don't know, 40s, 50s, and they will be like, okay, I want it to be this and that, and I didn't tried to. I didn't make the first
Yeah,
step.
for
So
sure. I
it's
mean,
sad.
you didn't try, and I mean that is a whole different topic about like the privilege of being able to grow into
True.
an artist. Even like I also feel like I had a lot of privilege in not having. I had like my uni time where I didn't really study for uni, but I worked on my music stuff.
I
But
see.
so I kind of used that time of of university, which I never finished, but I used that time to kind of work on my interests basically. But I also know a lot of people that don't have that chance of doing that.
True,
Like you
true,
say,
true,
like
true,
they
true,
might have to
true,
go into work or full-time careers
true,
much sooner
true,
because they have to or because they're pressured by their parents or peers or
true,
whatever.
true.
Yeah, like you say, like there's a lot of probably a lot of missed or hidden talents in a way,
Very true. Yeah.
not even just creative, but in all kinds of aspects. Because
Yeah.
in the end, we all kind of live in a system
True, true,
where we have
true.
to earn eventually,
True,
and yeah.
true. It's sad. It's a sad thing in my opinion, and also I feel like there are not enough mentors who can like mentorship these people who are talented. Like
Mm.
there should be like this really those that part of society which like has, you know, these mentors who can like say
Mhm.
that okay, you are talented in this, you should go with this direction, you are talented in that, and you should go with that direction.
Yeah, there's another problem like that. There are those things, but usually it's internships that are unpaid
True,
or
true,
very
true,
little
true,
paid,
true, true,
or
very
like
true.
assistance position,
Yeah.
like all these kind of entrance positions where you might be able to to learn those kind of things also come with that kind of downside of, well, you don't earn much, or if anything, you have to work
Sadly, yeah.
a lot of hours.
Yeah.
It's also very easy to kind of go into situations or work relationships where you're kind of being just used as
True.
cheap labor,
True.
because it's easy to kind of manipulate people
True.
that have big dreams, right? Like they want to
True.
achieve something and they look up to a person as a mentor, like you say, and can also easily turn the other way where
Yeah, I agree
you
with
feel
you
like you're just
totally.
being used.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because they will be, at the end of the day, they will be more into like the creative process of making, for example, music, and not, earning money, even though it will be their dream, but not the first goal of the dream. And that's how they
Mm.
can be used by these mentors, like I said. Yeah, and you also mentioned it. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad at the end of the day, very sad, because I met so many people who were talented in their own fields, but they
Mhm.
went up on the road of giving up these dreams of theirs. So yeah, it's sad. It's sad at the end of the day, in my opinion. Yeah. Okay. What was the first time when these two passions of yours
Mm.
have came together, and how?
Mm, I think, I mean, even when I was younger, I was always interested in game development, you could roughly say. I
See.
mean, I don't know if you know the software RPG Maker.
Yeah, I do. I do. I do.
Yeah, it's also very old-timey software, or at least that version back then. I think it was RPG Maker 2000. For anyone who doesn't know, it's basically like a toolbox or a sandbox where you can. I mean, it was originally built for your own turn-based RPGs. So it's pixel art, top-down kind of. And it had I mean, it had assets. You could put in music. I don't know if you can program. I mean, there's scripting language there that you can use. Obviously, you can write dialogue and stuff. And I mean, that was very interesting to me back then. I tried to fiddle around with it. I mean, I never got really far with it. But that was like the first time where I maybe developed that interest of, okay, I enjoy playing games, but I also would be interested in making something,
I
like
see.
have
I see.
develop ideas of stories or gameplay mechanics or whatever. And that kind of faded out. Meanwhile, I was always doing music anyways. And I think at some point, because the idea, or at least my idea, kind of crystallized that I wanted to make a living with music in some way. I didn't know how yet. I mean, the band stuff was quite clear that it's probably not going to be that. So I was kind of looking around and thinking about it, like what can I do? And
I see.
I also wrote music like for some documentaries
Oh, okay.
and things like that. Yeah, it was like different media. I tried out different media as
Nice.
well. And I think at some point, yeah, I was just playing indie games myself
I
as
see.
well, right? Like I was active in some of their forums of different developers. And at some point, I think, which was maybe 2014 or 2015,
Okay.
I think there was this dev I played games by. Their name is Transhuman Design. They're a Polish developer,
Okay.
and they made a game called King Arthur's Gold, which I
Okay.
was playing a lot myself at the time. And then I don't know how exactly, but because I was active in the forums, I saw that they're gonna make a next game
I see.
unrelated to the first game they made. And I just asked them if I can write the music. Yeah, and for some reason they said yes. And that's kind of where my first, I think you could say my first like professional experience came,
I
where
see.
I wrote the music. It was very guitar based, where I also had a guitarist come in and they recorded some parts. Yeah, and that game was not a huge success or anything, but it was, for me, it was like the first piece of portfolio that I can
Share with
add.
others, and you can go on
Yeah,
further. Yeah.
I mean, even that point is often very hard
Yeah, it's a very
to.
nice feeling that this first piece
Yeah,
of
it's
your
it's
own
hard
work.
to. Yeah, it's hard to come by because it's always this kind of paradox of you have to have done work in order to get more work,
To
right?
get,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, very true.
people always want to see you, hey,
Yeah,
what
like
have you
three
done? And of
years of
course,
experience, right? But
yeah,
how do you get experience from?
exactly. Like you
Yeah,
can, of course, you can write demos, you
yeah,
can write music to gameplay video,
yeah,
but
yeah.
what really counts the most, I often feel like, is being able to say, hey, I have a game that's on Steam and
It's true.
it's selling whatever it is selling, but
It's
that
out there, right?
always,
So it's
yeah, it's out, it's
acknowledged by the
finished.
people. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
finished. So it's not like you're making
it's not
music for
just talking.
yourself,
Yeah,
yes, but you're
yeah,
making it for others. Yeah,
yeah, and that's kind of where it started for me. And
I see.
then, like I said in the beginning, it was a very long process to even arrive at the point where I'm
Sure.
at now, where I'm making a living of it, but I'm not like driving around in a Porsche or anything. But I guess that was never the goal, anyways. But yeah, so it was a long, long road of then networking,
I
contacting
see.
developers, trying to find potential games that I can write music
Was
to.
it scary, by the way, this road of yours to build up this portfolio of yours and really like go out there and show the people that okay, I'm this person who is making music for games? Was it hard without a label, of course?
Mm, I think what's always a bit tricky for a lot of creative people, I think, is the part where it's kind of goes more into the money and the contracts and selling yourself, quote unquote, right? Like
True, true, true.
we always wish to
Like a
kind of,
product, right? But you don't want to be a
yeah,
product,
you
yeah,
don't want to be a product, but you
yeah.
still have
But
to
you
kind of sell
still, yeah,
yourself.
exactly, exactly.
And I mean, the big dream is always like you just get recognized or found by
Yeah,
someone, but that
yeah,
doesn't really happen. Very rarely is that the case. Most of the time, it's really just you have to put yourself out there in all manner possible.
true, true, very true.
Mm, but I think, I mean, I didn't find that part the scariest part. I think the
I see.
scariest part for me was when I kind of made the decision to say like, okay, now I really want to earn a living with this, because that was kind of for me like the moment where the switch kind of happened,
I see.
because I had my first game, I don't know, was 2015 maybe, the first game that came out. Then I had sporadically games here and there, smaller projects, but it wasn't, that was still during a time when I was in university. I wasn't under the pressure of having to make a living
I see.
or make enough to get by, let's say. But at some point, I was like, okay, I need to kind of make the decision, I think, to say, okay, this is now my full-time job and I'm going to make a living with this now. And then at that point, it also kind of changed how I approached
I see.
my day-to-day work. Like before, when I didn't have to do that, it was, yeah, okay, I'm gonna write a bit of music. Okay, now I'm gonna play League of Legends. I'm gonna hang around a bit, be lazy, whatever. And when I really decided to say, like, okay, I'm gonna do this now, that was also the scariest part, because I didn't know if I'm gonna uh, succeed in that regard. And there were a lot of times where it was quite tough, and I was like, oh, why am I doing this to myself? Maybe even nowadays sometimes, but yeah, I think the worst is over for now, at least. Fingers crossed.
I hope so too. Yeah,
Yeah, but that was the scariest part, to really say like, okay, I'm all in now, so to
I see.
speak, and I'm gonna do this for real. And yeah,
I see. I see. Thank you for your honesty, by the way, and thank you
yeah, sure. I
for
mean,
that.
I think it's important to be honest about
True,
it
true, very
for
true,
anyone who wants
very
to
true.
get
Yeah,
into it as well, or just to share the pain with others.
true, true, very true, very true. Okay. So, how do you feel about your parents and friends? Were they supportive about your decision that now, like you said before, just now, you really want to make a living and you are into like making your own music for games? How do you feel about that? Were your surroundings,
Hmm.
those people who are surrounding you on a daily basis, supportive about this decision of yours?
I think my parents, or my mom especially, I mean, she never really was like, you have to do this and this in your life. She
I
was
see.
always more of the kind to say, okay, try it and go ahead, right? Like supportive in that way, that she didn't set boundaries or
I
pressure
see.
me into quote unquote a normal job or career. And I think for friends, I'm not sure if I would say they were supportive. It's more like a lot of them maybe don't really understand
I see.
what I'm doing or what I did. And it was a gradual process, right? Like they see me sitting at my computer playing around for no money, and at some point I make money with it. But for them, I'm still like the guy that sits at the computer and does his little right. Like it doesn't. I don't know if that really ever changed in that regard. Like at least I don't necessarily feel like that. Like at some point, I think at some point they just realize, okay, he must earn money with it because he is paying rent and whatever.
True, true, true.
But it was never like them really asking me or
I see.
sitting me down. Was like, okay, what is happening? Yeah, I think it was more like let him do his thing. I mean, they didn't. They also weren't negative in any way. Like
I
it
see.
was more like, okay, maybe in the beginning it's kind of like, look at him, it's cute how he plays around. And now it's like, okay, he's still doing it. I guess,
Yeah,
like,
I guess he
okay,
made it, right?
yeah, it's not a phase anymore. I guess maybe, yeah.
I
So
see.
that's how I kind of feel about that. Like, yeah,
I see. Do you believe, by the way, it's important to have supportive surroundings in your life in order to
yeah,
like not give
absolutely.
up? Okay.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when I got to know my now wife, which was, I think it's also 6 years ago, it kind of coincided with me starting to go full time as
I
well.
see.
Like it really, and then whenever there's doubt or any kind of anxiety around it, it helps to have a partner who's believing in you in
I
that
see.
sense.
I
Like
see.
I mean, it could also be the other way, right? Like you could also have a partner who says like, okay, give it up now,
True, true, true. Very true, very
uh,
true.
sell your stuff, and maybe,
Go to a 9 to 5 normal job, earn
yeah,
more money.
provide, yeah, exactly. And
Yeah,
but
sadly, I would say, yeah.
I think it really helps to have a partner or friends or whoever people that also kind of see the potential maybe in you,
I see.
maybe even the potential that you don't see yourself, like them saying, hey, I believe in you, or I believe that one day you can be this and that, or
True.
don't give up yet. I think that is hugely important, or at least very helpful in that regard, because there are going to be a lot of times where there is self-doubt and anxiety around all kinds of things,
True.
not just the money, but also you have to put yourself out there time and time again, right? Like you have to share your art, and your art is something, in a sense, it's something very personal, but it also becomes kind of a product or a service basically to someone,
True, true.
and people will say no to you a lot of times. There's a lot of rejection in that sense. So I think it's very helpful to have people around you that kind of say like, hey, no matter what, like I got you, or I think you do great work. Just be a bit patient, work a bit more longer on it, maybe whatever. Or even just people you can hang out with and forget about work, right?
True.
Like just in the evenings or at the weekend, just let the work be, and hang out with them and have a nice dinner or whatever,
True,
watch a
true.
movie. That's also the other side, right? Like the kind of work-life balance thing. That's
True,
also very
true, true,
important.
true. Very true, very true. Do you find it hard, by the way, to balance, to have a balance in your life between your work and your other things that you love to do?
Yeah,
Okay.
still, or I don't know. Still, I feel nowadays it's a different kind of work-life balance
I see.
compared to when I started out. But I think it's still quite, I don't know, how should I say, quite work heavy in the
I see.
sense
I
that
see.
ultimately as a solo freelancer, I always feel like I am the business, right? Like I am the whole operation. So when there's an email that comes in
You have to
at
read it
10
and
p.m.,
answer it.
Yeah, maybe I don't have to, but I mean, if my mail program software is open and I see it come in, then I'm gonna read it, and I'm also gonna be on Twitter or go on Instagram at the evenings and see stuff there because it's never really um, sleeping in that sense, right? Like
True.
especially with different time zones and stuff. Like someone on the other side of the world might suddenly write you a message or whatever, or I think that's hard for me to kind of completely cut off in that sense. Like I would always check, even if I'm like on a vacation or something, I would still sometimes like check the Discord servers for the different projects I'm on, just to see if nothing is happening or whatever.
I can
And
relate to that, by the way. I can totally relate to that. But that's the passion in us, right? That we are passionate about what we are doing.
it is, yeah. I mean, I'm not even saying like, or in my case at the moment, I'm not even saying that it's like a that I feel bad about it. Like I don't feel necessarily stressed about it in that sense.
True.
But if you would see someone else who works maybe 9 to 5 at a company who then would do the same things that I'm doing, you would always say like, "Wow, your boss is really an asshole, like having you read mails and write stuff over time and stuff." But I think if you're a freelancer, yeah, it's hard to not do that. And like you say, like it's still, I mean, I'm passionate. I want to be up to date with stuff.
True,
I'm
true.
interested. I
And to
also want
maintain
to be,
yourself, to be up to date with everything
yeah,
that
for
is
sure.
happening
I want to be
nowadays.
up to date.
True, true,
And even with the projects, like I want to see what's happening.
true.
If there's any issues, I want to kind of be helpful and solve them. And that's kind of just, I think, part of the game, so to speak.
And it's more than 9 to 5, right? That's what a lot of people do not realize, that it's like
Yes.
more than 9 to 5. It's like every day, all time can be
Basically,
happening.
I mean, there's almost no end to it, right? Like
True, true.
there could always be something I could be
You're
working
always
on.
constantly thinking of what to
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah.
next. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's always going on, and yeah, but like we mentioned, it's still even then it's still important to kind of carve out space for nice dinners,
True, true, true.
weekend getaways, whatever. I mean, I enjoy going on, I don't know, like a vacation, but I would
I see.
still bring my workstation basically, like my MacBook and a small keyboard, because I still enjoy like writing music in a different place
I see.
of the world, but then have kind of a different environment, right? Like I can write music there and then maybe go to the beach. Like
True, true, true.
I don't mind the work itself. Just basically what happens outside of work is more important sometimes. And yeah, and also to be absolutely honest, like I get a little bit antsy or anxious when I don't do anything
I see.
for like 3 or 4 days. Uh, yeah, I don't know how healthy that is, but I can't really fully relax in that sense because there's always like this sense, okay, let's get back, uh, let's do something, basically. Yeah. So it's always
Yeah, but
going
again,
on.
I believe that that's the passion in you, and it's important, in my opinion, because it really shows that you care about all the music that you are putting out there for video games, and even if it's just
Yeah,
for
I
you,
think.
that you're composing a music for yourself to have a good time around it, or
Yeah, I mean it's definitely because that's kind of the fun part, right?
True,
And
true.
I kind of I always wanted it to be like that. I always wanted
True.
to just sit
Very true.
around and mostly write music
True.
all day and not do anything else. Basically, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff you also have to do as a freelancer, invoices and client management and everything.
True.
But most of the time, I would write music, and sometimes on the weekend, for example, it's also sometimes the best times to really focus on music because no, if the clients don't work on the weekends, there's not going to be any messages,
You have even
and
more free
then
time for focus
yeah,
just
exactly.
to the music, yeah, or just for
Exactly,
music,
yeah,
yeah.
because that's kind of like the ultimately that's the fun
True.
part,
True.
so
True.
it's hard to not do it.
Very true. Very true. Okay. So again, a more personal question from me would be that how do you think you have changed as a person in other territories of your own life from being a music composer?
Hmm. That's a deep question.
Thank you.
How have I changed in other ways? I mean, I think through the work that I'm doing, I have learned to become. I don't know if that goes to other areas, but I mean, I had to kind of become more disciplined in my life,
I see.
which I haven't been until that point, I guess.
I see.
um, and I'm still not like fully, fully disciplined and rigorous, but I think it kind of helped me in growing as a person to kind of be my own boss in that
I
sense.
see.
Like I have the responsibility for myself, for my own business. Basically, I think that really helped me uh, in a way to also structure my life, and also maybe to go back like to the other questions, in a sense, to not really care ultimately what
Okay.
others think,
Okay.
because I don't know if you go like to school reunions or whatever, people wouldn't maybe understand what I'm doing,
I see.
or maybe they would just like I said like, it's a bit cute, like he
I
will
see.
grow out of it, and you kind of have to ignore all that a bit, or you can also take it on and be like, okay, I'm going to show them kind of attitude,
What I
which
was doing
can,
for all those years.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how healthy it is, but it can definitely fuel
True.
the energy kind of where, like I said, like there's a lot of rejection throughout the whole process, and maybe there's also people that kind of don't treat you fairly or
True.
mistreat you in some other way, and instead of like saying, okay, I am nothing and I'm so little and I'm gonna
True.
crawl back into my
True.
space, you can
True.
also say like, okay, I'm gonna show them basically, uh, and that's kind of like what I had to develop maybe, or
I
kind
see.
of learn, that get this kind of um, thick skin in a way.
I see.
Like it's a mixture of being naive about the whole process, like being naive enough to believe that you can make it work, and
Make
also
things.
have
Yeah.
like this thick skin. I think some other composer once mentioned it to me, like you have to be too naive to fail, I think is the is a good description. Like you have
Very
to,
good quote. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you have to kind of believe in yourself somewhat, of
True.
course, and
True.
believe in the process.
That's the
And
inner child in us, right? Our childhood memories.
yeah, I think
It's
so. And also this kind of stubborn. You have to be stubborn, I
true.
think, as
True.
well. Like
True.
to be
True.
just like, I'm gonna. This is what I want to do, and
True.
I'm gonna do
True.
this.
Very true.
And I mean, I don't know how much all those things kind of translated into me as a person in other areas, but I'm sure those those kind of things manifest themselves there as well. Like be not be stubborn in the sense that only your way goes, but more stubborn in the sense that you have certain values you kind
True.
of cherish and
True.
don't move away from them,
True.
right? Like
True.
you have certain principles, maybe ethics, whatever. And if you believe in something strongly, then just go with it.
Don't
Of
change
course, you can
because
always have an open
others.
mind,
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree
but
with
I
you.
think like what we said in the beginning, like there's going to be a lot of outside factors,
True. True.
not even just in a creative career, in any kind of
Very true. Yeah.
life or career, whatever. And to kind of know maybe your own core,
True.
I think is
True.
quite a good thing, and then kind of be strong about protecting that.
True. Very true. Very true. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Is that it's not just about like composing music, but in every territory of our own life is a lot of us like forget to protect that core vision of ours. That's and it's a problem in my opinion because we can go back to what we were talking about in the early beginning of our interview. That what I just said as well, and you too, that people really forget to go out and chase their dreams and have this
Mhm.
vision ongoing in their life and use their talents in order to make something bigger than they are, not just go for
Mhm.
the money, house, having a wife, kids, dog.
I mean, if that's what they, if
No, of
someone
course,
truly
but
wants that,
no, of
but I
course, but
think,
I
like you
think
say, like many
it's
people might not
yeah.
want only that, and
Yeah, true, 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 very true. It's really the society that like brings us these rules that we need to chase these things, but at the end of the day, sometimes we chase it because it's like harder to achieve. But I don't know. So
It
it's
is
weird.
abs-
It's weird. It's
it's
weird.
it's a lot harder to achieve. It's not only the whole financial success, whatever side, but also like you say, like there is societal pressure
True.
whereas you have to kind of go against that as well, in addition to
True. True. True.
doing all the other things. Like unless you're lucky enough that you maybe grow up in a musical household or in a
True.
household of artists that kind of can nourish you or support you from an early age. I think if you are in a certain environment where maybe that's not really common, or where you don't have those kind of role models or mentors that you
True.
can kind
True.
of look up
Look
to,
up to, yeah.
then it does become a lot harder because then you kind of have to be your own guide
True. True.
in a sense against all these
But that's also a learning experience, in
influences.
my opinion, because if, like you said, if with that quote that if you too naive and enough naive to fail, then you will learn from your own experiences. Of course, if you are mentally
Totally.
strong in that sense that you can learn from your own experiences and to grow into a
Yeah,
better like person with
there
more
is a lot of that, a lot of failures and trying to learn out of them. I think that's kind of part of it, and you kind of have to. It's kind of the same thing with the rejections. Kind of
True.
like you have to be willing to risk that
True.
you're going to be rejected, that you're
True.
going to
True.
fail
Very
with
true.
certain
Very true.
things.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so by this topic that we are talking about, do you think like by the success of yours as a music composer, your mom would be up for like picking up the guitar again? I know it's a very personal
Hmm.
question, but I'm
I don't know. I
interested in
mean,
this because it really ties together the topic that we discussed, and you mentioned that
hmm.
your mother gave up playing the guitar like long years ago, but I'm assuming that she misses it, right? So because like you said about it.
I don't know. I mean, we never really talked about it
Okay.
anymore.
You
I
should.
mean,
Homework time. I always joke
yeah.
about this that my dev live shows are therapy sessions, but it's true. Like not just for me, but for my guests as well. Yeah.
I mean, she is a psychologist, so
Okay.
we can make a real therapy
You
session.
should ask her then. I wonder what
Yeah,
will.
I don't know. I mean, would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, she never mentioned that she
Okay.
would want to. I mean, I'm happy to ask her.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but it's kind of one of those things, I think, right? Like maybe there's also the point where you stopped it so long ago and you never really went in touch with it anymore that it's almost lies dormant maybe in you.
I
I
don't
don't know.
believe in that. I don't believe in that. I believe that we all missed something that we stopped doing as a
Hmm.
kid and we were passionate about. It's just like you said, it's way harder to pick up when we are older, but it doesn't mean we can't,
Yeah.
right? It's like
No, for sure.
it's like everything that we did in our past and we were passionate about and talented. I think it's very easy after we made the first step to pick those things up again, in my opinion at least.
I think
It's like you
another
don't
thing that,
forget, right? The basics of the
yeah,
stuff
I
that
mean,
you
you don't
did wrong.
forget,
Exactly.
but also what I found, at least with video games, is that it's sometimes hard when you get older to kind of get into that headspace again.
It's true. That's true.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember, still to this day, I remember playing Oracle of Seasons on the Game Boy Color, and I feel like I can never replicate that experience. Like
True.
I can,
Very true.
no matter how much I would play it now, I have other things in my head that don't allow me to
True.
fully
True.
commit myself
That's
to
the
the
kid
game
in the
only.
bubble in us, right? That was
Yeah, I
like
think so. Yeah,
closed down, not seeing all the bad stuff
yeah,
in our society and in our own world, and all the rules that we need to like support to be make a living or anything
yeah.
like
And I
that. Yeah.
think, I mean, a lot of game devs that I speak to or work with, I think ultimately a lot of us are kind of chasing that
True. True.
feeling still.
Very
Like
true.
we're trying to make that kind of game that we wish we had when we were younger,
True.
or try to make that. But what I find fascinating is, or what I find inspiring, is that nowadays we can be part of making the kind of games that have that kind of
True.
impact on
True.
the younger generation now.
Very
So
true. Very
the
true.
best thing for me would be if someone, a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid, would grow up on one of the games I wrote the music to and say like, "Hey, this is the game, or this is the game soundtrack that defined my youth, whatever lofty words you want to
It's
use.
like a domino effect, right? It started with
Yeah,
you
yeah.
and all those people that played games, and now you give your feelings with your own craft,
Yeah,
with
I
your
mean,
own
hopefully,
music.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like what was Oracle of Seasons or Monkey Island to me back then is hopefully something newer to the newer generation now. Yeah.
Very true, very true, very true. And very nice, like, thoughts of yours. I love that. I love that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately in games. I mean, music and games, we're kind of trying to make a connection, right? Like
True, true.
with someone else
And
through this
replicate
kind
that
of
feeling, like you said, our childhood feeling. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, ultimately you want to kind of be part of a game where people started and they're kind of lost in
True,
this world and experience a story or whatever, experience emotions, different feelings. And I think it's super cool to kind of realize sometimes, and it's sometimes you have to remind yourself sometimes because you don't really, everything is a bit impersonal through the internet, right? Like, okay, sure, you get like comments and stuff, but um, sometimes it's hard to know exactly your kind of impact, maybe with the kind of game you made or with the music you made. And yeah, I think the best comments are those kind of comments where people say like, hey, this reminded me of my parents. This music made me cry. This made me blah blah blah, or even just got me excited and pumped, whatever. And I think that's kind of ultimately the coolest thing is when it really has an impact on someone else who could be in a totally different part of the world, doesn't even speak any of my languages, or doesn't have even remotely the similar upbringing or connection that I have, and they find the same kind of emotional content in the music and the art, whatever. And I think that's kind of like this universal thing that's so cool when it works.
Very true, very true, very true, very true. But I believe that the sad part comes from that a lot of people are who are really obsessed with the things that they consume. Sometimes they are like not down to use this communication method of like having those positive comments. It's always like the harsh and negative comments came
Yeah,
first,
that's
right? Sadly, and it's interesting
yeah.
because I talked about it like some days ago with a good friend of mine. That it's very interesting how people work. That they rather put out their very harsh and negative opinions, but if they are humbled or very happy about something, they won't write it down, right? So you barely see that. Okay, I love
Probably,
this
yeah.
thing, and I could connect, like you said, because I think it would be important to have these positive outgoing like comments, as you said, and I very agree with you on that too. But it's rare, and it's getting more rare in my opinion, and it's sad because like you won't be able to understand those people what they could think when they play the game, right? They, I don't know, give a 10 out of 10 score for the musical part of your games that you made, but you won't be able to know their realization and their thoughts, and it sucks in my opinion because like you said, the ultimate goal would be to connect with those people. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, and I mean, this the sad part of it is also that a lot of times, I mean, a positive comment is great, like it makes you feel good or
yeah,
whatever.
because
But
it goes here and there,
and
right? Because the connection is
yeah,
formed when you like when people listen to the music of the games that you have been working on. But still, it's like a one-sided thing because you give a message with your music to those people, and they are probably reminded, I don't know, like you said, of their happy or sad times with their family, but they want to give you feedback about it, right? So you will be starting to questioning yourself that, okay, am I
right.
worth it, or am I, or my music worth it for these people or not? Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of where why I always enjoyed playing music live as well, because there you kind of have this immediate
reaction.
feedback, yeah, reaction. Basically, you can kind of, I mean, sure, people don't necessarily stand there and
True.
cry in front of you.
True.
Maybe they do, but still, you kind of can see it in their faces. Sometimes I feel like if they're really listening, if you're really connecting, or if they're bored or whatever, I think that's kind of what I enjoy about that. And the other part is also like going to like game conferences and stuff, where you maybe have a booth of the game and you can see people playing the game. That's also quite cool. And let's plays as well online. People let's stream the game. I mean, those are kind of like the the game versions of playing the music live, right?
True,
Because
true, true.
they might react to it in some way. You will see how they play it and whatever their initial impressions. I think that's kind of cool and also always very yeah, anxiety inducing uh, to have someone maybe play a game for the first time or even listen to a piece of music for the first time while you're there in the room, right? Like it's different if I write a piece of music and just send it out
True,
into the world and
true.
people listen to it maybe and but if you're right there with them, next to them, and you can see their faces. Are they bobbing their head? Are they smiling at the joke that someone wrote? Are they scared or whatever? Like, is it working essentially what you're trying to achieve, right? Like, you set out with this kind of goal, connecting with them, pulling them into a world. Is it happening?
True, true.
Yeah.
Very true. I believe in this statement that all us creators who make our own crafts, we always tend to put our inner self in it. In that we are
Hmm.
making and all the experiences, losses, love, everything we had in our past. Is this statement of mine true for you as well and for your life and for the musical composing part of your life?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you want to create art in any way, I think it's also very important for yourself to kind of try at least to live life in a way where you experience new things, where you get exposed to different cultures, where you get exposed to different art and different music, stories and whatever. I think that's kind of very important, right? Like we say, like it's you're trying to ultimately like build a connection
True.
or have someone react to your work, and you yourself can only create that when you have things to draw upon. I think like your own inner turmoil or whatever, and
But very
you
true,
can.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I always feel like that's also like what actors would do. Like they, if they're in a sad scene, they have to pull out that sadness that is stored in them
True.
because they have experienced it, right? Like
True.
it would be kind of weird in a sense, right? Like for them to fake something
That's
that
true.
they've never felt, maybe, and maybe that's also what distinguishes a good actor from a bad actor. I don't know.
True. Very true.
Yeah, but I think it's super helpful as an artist in any capacity to kind of consume lots of different things. Like, right, especially if I write music, I don't just listen to game music, right? Like, I want to listen to all kinds of music because I also want to write in different styles. But I also don't just play games, but I want to watch movies and experience other stories because there's all these things you can be inspired by, right?
True.
Like
True.
can be a movie, can be a book, can be a real life situation that happened. Yeah, I think. And what's also interesting for me in that regard is always that sometimes when I listened back to pieces that I wrote a long time ago, not for all of them, but for some, I can still kind of remember where I was, how it felt when I was doing it. That's also quite interesting. Like every piece of music for me is a little bit of a time capsule in that sense, where it's like, oh yeah, I remember that was that kind of day, or I felt like that and that. Like I don't really. I mean, I listen to it and go like, oh, I could have done this and this better, like we always do. But ultimately, what I hear is like, oh, I was in that kind of
I see.
state of mind, or at that kind of state of my
Like a memory
craftsmanship or whatever.
fragment of your life.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, I think so. Like I can remember the weather or what I did that day, maybe a bit, and in general, that kind of feeling. That's sometimes also kind of cool to go back and that not so much listen in terms of oh what could I have done better or what would I would different do different now, because of course I would do things different now because I'm not the same person anymore. That's kind of what makes it a time capsule, right? Like because that was a product of me at that point of in time, being that kind of person at that time. So yeah,
I see.
like you say, like it's always something personal from us,
True. True.
hopefully.
True. Very true.
If it's not, then it becomes probably a bit too generic. I mean, to me, generic means in a sense that there is
soul in it.
no soul, or maybe no personality in a sense, right? Like generic to me would mean it's something that everyone could create, or it's
True.
like it's a no-name
True.
thing. Like
True.
it doesn't evoke, oh, this is maybe this kind of person's style, whatever. Yeah.
True. True. Very true. Very true. What was your favorite project to work on? I hate to pick favorites, but it's always easy to ask, right? So I'm now that
Right.
guy who asks it, and you have
Oh,
to
I
pick.
really don't know if I'm able to say that because
Okay.
every project has been quite different. Like so far, I feel like I've been lucky enough that I haven't really worked on projects that kind of repeat themselves in the sense
I
that
see.
I'm just hired for the same thing and I do the same thing and do the same
I
thing.
see.
I feel like every project has been quite different. I mean, my first bigger project that really helped me get going was a game called Space Haven,
Okay.
which is a space sim. Basically, you build a spaceship or space station. You can fly through space. You have to manage your crew. You have to manage all their needs and stuff. Gets quite complicated, very in depth. And that game is still in early access since 2020, I think it released. Yeah, but that was like the first time I was really part of a project that really, I don't know, successful or got really
I see.
the kind of recognition that I didn't even really expect it myself. Like whenever I usually work on a project, I mean, I might say like, hey, this is a great game, or I think we're doing something cool here, but it's still always impossible to really know how it's going to be received.
True.
I think like until it hits Steam, until those first press reviews and the first Steam reviews come in, it's always a little bit of a gamble, at least from my end, where I don't really know. Yeah, but that was like the first. I mean, that's why I'm always going to hold it quite dearly in a sense that it's a good memory of that time where I felt for the first time, okay, this might be something that I can live off in a sense.
I see.
And yeah, and from then on, the games have been quite different. Like last year, we released Wild Frost, which is a roguelike deck builder. It's a very different style. So Space Haven was very ambient and spacey and nostalgic in a way, and Wild Frost was very orchestral and folk and mixing a lot of different instruments from different cultures and very action and fun as well kind of music. And now I just finished writing the music for a game called Locomotive, which is a point and click adventure, a narrative driven game. It's also pixel art, but from the side, and you're on a train, you kind of have to solve a murder mystery. And that is a game I wanted to be a part be a part of that kind of game for quite some time because I also grew up on those kind of games like Monkey Island, the kind of LucasArts generation of point and click adventure games, and it's a genre that kind of it is more a niche genre, I feel like, but in the last few years, I really feel like it has kind of grown again.
I
Also,
see. I see.
I don't know the statistics or I don't know the numbers, but I feel like
It's also again coming back to its golden age, in my opinion, because there are so many good
yeah,
and awesome point and click games coming out.
yeah, maybe it's having a kind of like comeback in that sense
True,
where
true,
it's
very
really
true. I can feel that too. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And for me, that kind of game was super cool to work on because it is very narrative driven and it's a
It's
lot
like
of
history
dialogue.
repeats itself, right? In the video game industry as well.
Yeah, that is also true. Yeah, I think so. I mean, ultimately, that's why I really enjoy working in kind of like the indie dev scene
True,
because I feel like there are people that really just they do what they want to do, right?
true.
Like
They are not limited.
they, yeah. I mean, maybe they are,
Maybe
and
they are, but like not by
it's
a
hard.
person that says that okay, you
Yeah,
can do
it's
this or
not by a
that.
person. It's
Yeah,
maybe you just have to. I mean, you still have to get funding and stuff.
yeah,
But for example, like I remember for Space Haven, they had like a successful Kickstarter campaign and raised like over 200,000, which then allowed them to do that. And another game, I think Wild Frost was basically mostly self-funded by the dev because he had another game before that went well.
I see.
And I think it's similar to my kind of freelance career for indie devs. It's also possible to carve out their niche, I think, and ultimately they do the kind of projects that they are passionate about, right? Like they don't just want to. They're also not in it for the money, is what I'm trying to say. Basically, like if they want to earn money, they can go into AAA and work there, or do something completely different from games, maybe. But that's, I think, what I really enjoy about indie dev. Like you say, like they might revive an older genre that hasn't really felt the love.
True.
I mean, back in the day, LucasArts essentially. I mean, it's LucasArts. It's AAA
Everyone
basically.
knew
Like,
it. Yeah.
yeah, and they put like massive budgets into these kind of games that nowadays are seen as kind of a niche.
True.
But for indie devs, it's kind of like, hey, I love this kind of game and I want to make this kind of game. And a similar kind of story, like for a game like Stardew Valley, right? Like
True.
he was like, hey, I really loved Harvest Moon, the old Harvest Moon. I haven't seen that kind of game in quite some time. I'm gonna make my love letter to this kind of game, and then it blew up completely. And now every second game is a farming sim game with cozy vibes. But yeah, I think it always takes one person, I think, or one team maybe to be successful with a certain genre that hasn't seen the love it maybe deserves, and then everyone is gonna jump in and be like, okay, let's revive it.
Yeah. Which is weird in my opinion, because like sometimes it ends up like like you said, being this generic, like still having your own vision by trying to revive a genre, but like still being like that person who like might not be able to stick their own vision, because even if it's a limitation or anything. But yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting question, right? Like, of how much of a copy of something do you want to be, and how much do you change?
No, don't
Do
get
you
me
even
wrong. I
have
never
to?
believed that any of the games like vary 100% copies of other games. It's just like you said,
Right.
that if it's very it really started, probably, I always joke with this, but it's true. It really started with like Fortnite and Epic Games having the battle royale genre in the video
Mhm.
game industry, and now a lot of AAA companies and even indie companies wants to like make this battle royale
Yeah,
and looter shooter and this what's
that's
extraction shooter.
extraction, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like everyone wants to do that, and it's
right.
crazy to me. Like that's I feel like sometimes it's not the vision that is bad, but the genre that they want to put the vision in. And I feel like a lot
Yeah,
of
I think
like
it's
visions
yeah,
would work way better with other genres, at least in my opinion. But what they think, in my opinion, especially these AAA companies, like you said, that they see that okay, this game had success with this genre, and they want to put their vision
totally.
in
Yeah,
the same genre.
I
And I
think
think it's never the vision that lacks of like their own
it's also not
like
a lack of the talent,
uniqueness.
right? Like
True.
they have the talent, they have the people to
True.
make interesting and new stuff. But I think it's a similar issue that Hollywood has, for example, where it's like instead of developing a new IP, we're just gonna rehash
True.
and
True.
make Mission Impossible 22 or
Yeah,
whatever, and
that's the safe
another
play
one,
I
another
was
one.
always talking about at my dev live shows and outside my dev live shows in other streams as well. That I call it safe play, like when big companies
Right.
like
Yeah.
are afraid of the the opinions of people if they would be like down on the road to make something unique. And that's why they end up like being these people who create safe play things, like safe play media, even if it's games, music,
Totally.
videos, movies, anything. And it works because like we always talk about this at my dev live shows, that just see there is like Call of Duty new episode or Assassin's Creed new episode, they are selling it because like people
Mhm.
still are loyal to that franchise. But if Ubisoft, for example, would be down again to make unique things, it probably won't like sell enough copies, even not that much like Assassin's Creed does, because people
Right.
I feel like I always say this, that I feel like nowadays we are living in such a cancel culture era that all the unique
Mhm.
things that were appreciated like 10 years ago are not appreciated that much now. And I feel like it's very
Mhm.
weird, right? Because like at some point players want unique thing, but if they get it and they start not to understand it and not like it, they
Right.
dislike
Yeah.
it and hate that much that their opinions will end up shaping the industry for companies to make safe play games. And it's stupid, right? Because it's
Totally.
like
Yeah.
a here and there, kick and there, punch it there, and they will end up being like these people who are afraid to give out their vision. And I can see that a lot of times, especially like you said in the AAA industry.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as you get higher and higher in budgets, it's kind of like there's less room, quote unquote, to fail, whatever failing means in that sense. But like you say, like it takes nowadays, it can take one addition of a certain character or location, and suddenly you have like a shitstorm on your hands.
True, very true, very true.
Like
Sadly,
the
yeah,
like the visual reaction to things, or the negative reaction to certain things, can be so, yeah, so much that I would surely put blame on the companies, but also the players, like you say.
true,
like
true, very true,
like a huge portion can be quite toxic, and
true.
I'm lucky that I haven't seen that as much in the indie scene, because usually, I mean, generally in the indie game scene, I feel like the devs in terms of like the actual people making the game are a lot closer to the community.
Exactly.
Oftentimes they
Yeah,
have built their own
exactly,
community.
exactly, exactly.
The people that are part of that community are usually supportive of the game, right? Like
And
they
they
are
are more
there,
passionate too. So that's
they're
why I
more
was always
passionate.
saying that I feel like the real problem with the whole gaming industry became an issue and available, this problem of the video game industry, when it really became a trend. Because I believe, like what you said is very true and connects with my vision, is that I feel like as for indie games, people understand indie games and people are passionate about indie games, but
Mhm.
the whole trend of people who are playing games for a trend, not because they are passionate about it, they will be the ones who might not understand games, what they are for them, right? And they will have this,
Mm.
vision of, okay, I want a game to be good. But at the end of the day, if you ask them what a game is good for them, they won't be probably able to understand and say that, okay, this and that I would like to see in a game that would be good for me. And I
Mhm.
think that's the huge issue, is that like on one hand I can see that it's good that a lot of us now are gamers, but on
Mhm.
the other side of the same coin I feel like it's a problem, because I feel like me and you and all those old school gamers who really like started from the very scratch, very beginning, we really like very passionate about video games. And a lot of
Mhm.
people who just came into the industry and just play, I don't know, because their favorite streamer or friend or I don't know, girlfriend or boyfriend or dog or family member plays video games, and they
Mhm.
start to play it on like once per week. It won't be that
Right.
much of a passion. And without passion, it's like you said, it becomes generic, this connection between
Mhm.
games and players. And I think it's an issue. What is not that much recognized by the players, but the companies more.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there is a lot of toxicity that goes around, and it is only amplified a lot of times by the social media
True,
algorithms,
true,
right? like
true.
like what I wanted to say earlier as well is, you can get 1,000 nice comments in a day, but one super mean comment can sometimes like stick out
Exactly,
much more than
exactly,
I mean, it's the sad reality that
exactly.
sometimes that can be the one thing where you're like, oh, okay. And I think you have to, again, there, you have to kind of develop that kind of thick skin in a way. But I also don't really know a solution to the whole issue, other than the whole system of social media kind of like increasing the engagement of bad
It's basically
things.
communication, in my opinion, what you talked about before, and I think you
Right.
was very right about it. That as for the indie scene, people can communicate more with like devs, but At the AAA, it's way harder to like see the exact vision what they wanted
Yeah.
to have for the players, right? And that's why these players end up not understanding the vision, the real vision of those games, and that's why they like have this bubble in their real life when they want to games to be good, but they do not understand what a good game is for them, and I think that's really a
I mean,
problem.
it's not like the indie scene is not completely void of that. Like I've seen cases of games and stuff like where there have also been huge like
True,
harassment
true, true. It happens in any scene,
campaigns
yeah,
and
but
stuff.
it's
Like I
it's
feel like
it's more
I don't
rare
know
in
what
my opinion.
it is more rare. Yeah, I would say it's more rare, and I don't know what the solution is. Like other than those people need to go and do something else, or maybe go outside for a bit, relax. It's just a game in the end.
True, true, true.
I don't know. Some of the excuse me,
No, it's okay.
some of the reactions are so visceral that I feel like it is so out of proportion to what is actually happening, right? Like an indie game that you pay 15 euros for, and I don't know, you didn't like it, or maybe it was a little bit too difficult. Okay, refund it on Steam. You have 2 hours. If after 2 hours you're still playing it, then don't complain. I don't know, unless there's really. And I think, I mean, especially in the indie scene, you always have the opportunity as a player, usually, to get in touch with the devs. You can join the discords, whatever. You can be in the communities, and most developers I know are usually very open to
True.
feedback, a real feedback, not just bashing the game or bashing them personally. I think that's also kind of cool, and kind of where, if successfully done, like early access games can also really shine, because you are getting the community on board, and they get to be kind of be a part of the development process. Like it can be very positive in that way, where it's almost like the players themselves have a little bit of a feeling of contributing to the game development,
True.
which can also, there are also possible negative sides where they have too much of a feeling of
Yeah,
ownership, because
yeah, that's
usually
what I wanted to say.
then at some point you need to make a decision about a future
True,
that
true.
they might want, and then the whole
It's again
thing starts
balance,
up again.
right? To have that balance
Yeah.
between your own vision and players' opinions and feedback. Yeah.
And I also think, like, if you really have your own vision, and if you do create something good, whatever that may be, like it connects with people, like it often finds its people, and hopefully ultimately the kind of positive response outweighs the negativity, because the reality is a lot of people online that are might be toxic and whatever, they're ultimately not the people that buy the game. They might have not even bought the game. They're just hopping on a hate train, so to speak.
True,
But
true.
like you also mentioned earlier, sometimes the negative voices can be a lot louder, or perceived to be a lot more, because not everyone who has a good time with the game goes
Exactly,
on all
exactly,
caps lock
exactly,
and goes like, I love this game.
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you can sometimes get the
Yeah,
skewed
because
impression
somehow
that you hate
society
it.
teaches us to speak what we do not like, right? And not
Right.
that what we love, and to speak about why we love it. Yeah, and it's very weird, because like I said, it's more rare to see that, oh, I love this game, I love this movie, it's so good, it really teach me for this and that, and I could resonate with the feeling of or vibe with that music or game or movie. Yeah, it's more rare. Like you see more rare positive
Hmm.
comments. You see, but like you said, it's like niche to see those very positive
And even if
comments.
they exist in the same spot, like what I say about like the algorithm and everything, like the negativity will usually kind of be perceived as
True,
much
true, true, true.
more. And in the end, you might see all of these negative comments and be like, "Oh, wow, the game must be bombing." But the reality is that people people who like the game are buying it silently, so to speak, right? Like they're not shouting about it,
True,
and engaging in all kinds of discussions
true, true,
online. And also, social media is, it has its niches, right? Like different people are on different
true,
platforms.
true. Very
Not
true.
everyone engages in Reddit discussions or
True.
on Twitter, on whatever. And some people don't even engage in those at all, but still buy games and play games. And I think what ultimately counts for the devs is probably to see that people buy the games, and hopefully leave some good reviews. And I also know a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but people also would write me emails and stuff like that. They don't necessarily post on public for everyone to see, but they might send a nice message
True.
via email or a private message, because not everyone has to always take part in that.
Exactly.
And yeah, but there can definitely be this
That's the
skewed
right
impression
mindset,
for
right?
people.
That if I loved something, I don't usually have to go out there and to show everyone that I loved it, right? Because no one will care about it. At
Yeah,
the
I
end of
mean,
the day, that you
yeah,
loved it, right? People will care about the hate, sadly more. Yeah,
yeah,
it is what it is, I guess.
it is what it is, and yeah, like I say, you just kind of have to live with that in a sense. And also, I think the best, I mean, for me, at least, I would always say, like, don't really engage with negativity, because unless it's really honest feedback in the sense that it's something that you can work with, then it's just noise, I think, because it doesn't really help anyone. I don't even know if it helps the person that is toxic because
I don't think so.
I don't know how they're going like that, but I don't know. Just block and move on and focus on creating something cool that is true to what you want to do, I think.
True.
That's what really counts.
Very true.
And that is also the thing, to end that point there. It's also the thing that will persevere. Like their negativity and stuff that will evaporate because they're not really like we mentioned it a few times, right? Like they're not really connecting with someone on a deeper level. Like they don't have that. And I mean, it's sad, but ultimately that will vanish. And what will last is people having a good time with your game, listening to your music, whatever. Like that is what has a
because
more
they're missing the fun
collective.
part, right? To have that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What it's all about in the end.
True. Okay, before I ask some more questions of you, are you down to answer some questions from the community as
For
well?
sure.
Nice. Thank you. Okay.
Are people watching?
Oh yeah, they are.
Okay.
They are just lurking, I guess. Let us know, ladies and gentlemen, if there is any question. Let us know. Please let us know. Let us know. Hölgyek, urak, hogyha bármilyen kérdés van, tudassátok velünk. Let us know. Here is the time you can ask questions. Let us know. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Any questions? Let us know. Let us know. Hölgyek, urak, hogyha bármilyen sorry.
No, I was just saying we already mentioned everything.
Oh, okay. No, I still have some questions, but
oh, okay.
Yeah. I still have some questions on my mind, but please let me know if there is any question. Hölgyek, urak, tudassátok velünk, hogyha bármilyen kérdésetek van. Let us know. Let us know. So before there would be more questions from the community, how do you choose your projects, by the way? That's a question that I also wanted to ask you. Are you picky?
First they have to choose me.
Okay.
Am I picky? Maybe I'm getting more picky nowadays, but I think for the longest time I was just happy to work on anything, honestly. Like when I started out, I started in 2018, and the first 2 or 3 years, it would have to be like a horribly unethical project for me to say no to it. As long as it was paid, I would probably have done anything, because like I mentioned before, like my goal really was at first to just make enough money from writing music in general. And then kind of like the more picky stuff, or the more like, hey, I want to work on this kind of game, I think that is starting more now. Like in maybe last year or this year, it's starting a bit more. But there's also, besides that, there's also sometimes just a question of schedules that clash. Like I just now started to work on a project, so it means for the next 4 or 5 months I can't take on another project, right? Like and sometimes projects will come in, then people forgot about the music. Hey, we need something now in the next 2 months. And it's like, I wish I could have done that, but now I can't.
I see.
But that's also a newer thing. So how do I choose my projects nowadays? I mean, it took me a lot of time to get to a point where people might come to me first, right? Like for the longest time, it was me reaching out, asking, hey, do you need music? Email, get 98 no's and one maybe and one yes, maybe. And so the percentage of projects that would actually happen out of reaching out and stuff was so tiny. And then even those projects that came in were also usually often tiny and maybe was like 1 or 2 tracks, and a lot of games never made it to Steam, never got released. Mm. And now I'm at a point where I'm lucky enough that some people, because I had like a few projects that have been doing quite well in that sense, that they either hire me back for the next project, because usually the reality is like nowadays, unless maybe you have a huge success, probably after your game releases, you kind of need to start working on the next one more or less right away. I mean, I know one team, I haven't worked with them, but I know that they basically released the game, and I think the next week after they started prototyping the next project, because if it's not a big success where so much money comes in that you're like, okay, we can take maybe a month off or something, it's usually okay, we need to start on the next thing, which can be positive in the sense for us composers or anyone else that if you work with a team on a project, they are finished with this game now, that they'll be like, okay, hey, we're starting on the next project now, come on in. And yeah, that's kind of like recently a lot of projects that are happening come through people that I know. Either I know them directly or they know someone that I know directly. So there's also this kind of sense of initial trust already established, I think. And from their side, that they trust that I will do an okay job, and also trust from my side that I feel like, okay, they know what they're doing, or they can't be complete assholes and stuff like that.
I see. I see. So, what
Yeah.
about the future? Do you believe that in the future you would build a game around your own music? Would it make sense for you? Because like at the very beginning of our interview, we were talking about that you always like wanted to go fully into video game development too. So, can you
Mhm.
imagine yourself like building up a world by your own
Mm,
imagination, make the music around it, and then like even if it's a
yeah, I mean,
game, even if it's just yourself, to make a game around that music and around that vision and word that you have built by the help
I
of
could
music, of
could
course.
imagine that. Yeah, it probably. I mean, like you say, I probably would need a team anyways.
Okay.
I mean, what I enjoy when I write music for games is that while I'm doing that, writing the music, I get a insight into everything, right? Like I have the Unity project, I have the insight into, I see what the programmer is doing. I'm not understanding what they're doing, but I can still see kind of like the artist delivering the files, how they get integrated, and I see how the writing is done. And for me, that's super interesting to kind of see all these different elements coming together. And I would be interested at some point, I don't know when, to maybe to still be the composer of a team, but maybe be involved in the game project even a bit more, in the sense that I might brainstorm and come up with gameplay mechanics or the setting or the lore. I think for me that is very intriguing, to kind of like go beyond only quote unquote writing music, to also kind of like, hey, what are the ideas we can come up together with and stuff like that. And then obviously I would still this team would still need like a programmer, an artist, and everything. But yeah, I think that could be something very interesting eventually. Who knows?
I see. I see. Thank you. Thank
But
you.
definitely not completely on my own. too much, too much. Yeah, to learn. I mean, I've tried a few times to kind of learn more about Unity and even like scripting or making pixel art. But I found my calling with music. That's the thing I can do, and the other things I would always want experts in those areas for. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Do you think, by the way, that you have found yourself by composing music? Do you think like you are at the right place of your life now that you always wanted to be?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, what is a bit tricky, I think, f- for many people in general, but especially for me as well, is like when you set a goal and then you kind of achieve that goal, then it's always a question, okay, but what now, right? Like
True. 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 Very
when I
true.
when I started, it was mostly about, hey, I just want to make a living with music.
I see.
Not because I want to earn money with music, but because I have to earn money. I want to do music only. So
True. True.
those
True.
things go together. Then at some point that kind of happened. And then I was like, okay, what do I really want to do? Okay, I want to focus really on video games. Okay, next thing. I think like the goals and the feeling of being where you want to be always shifts, right? Like otherwise you would kind of just be content where you are. I don't know,
True.
maybe people are, but I'm content where I am, but I'm also like thinking about the future, right? Like I always still envision, okay, what else could happen? Like this year is the first time that I have a soundtrack of mine on vinyl, for example. Like that was a big moment for me where it's like, okay, I always dreamed like to have my a soundtrack of mine like on vinyl or like on a record, so to speak, and then to see people like some people actually buy it. Okay, that's also amazing. But I think throughout there's always like these new goals or dreams you can have, right?
True. True.
Like
True. True.
it
Very true.
never really I don't think it never really ends in that sense
True.
that you
Very true.
always
Very true. Yeah.
like I think the same goes for hugely successful film composer, whatever.
True.
When they
True.
win the Oscar, it's not like,
True.
okay, now I won the Oscar and I'm done now. It's like, okay, I want to win the next Oscar. I want to still tell this kind of story, write
True.
this kind of
Very true.
music, do this and that. And hopefully that kind of just I think it's important to have that and also not uh, get too anxious about that when it takes time. Like it's great to have goals and dreams, but you also need to kind of still be happy in the moment as well, if that
True.
makes sense. Like you have
Appreciate the
to,
journey itself.
yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. Like you have to still enjoy the journey and not like tense up fully and be like, I have, and also be flexible, right? Like because everything it can change. Like
True.
maybe today
True.
you
True.
think
True.
like, hey, I wanna win the Grammy for a video game soundtrack, but maybe in 20 years it never happened, but something else happened, and now you wrote like the music for a groundbreaking documentary or whatever happens. Like you have to be flexible and open, I think, to those kind of things as well, like possibilities that come along,
True.
opportunities. Yeah, and I think to answer your question, I think I am content where I am while I also think about what's next, so to speak. And I wouldn't be content if I stayed how I am forever, right? But I think that's kind of ultimately the kind of growth we all want, not only in our careers,
True.
but
True.
also
Very true. Very true.
personal
We
life,
always want to
whatever.
challenge ourselves in order to grow as a human,
Yeah,
person. Yeah.
challenge and even just like experience new things. I
True.
don't know,
True.
travel to countries,
True.
whatever you want to do. I think there's always like this. I think if we don't have that, then I don't know. Then I wouldn't know what the point is anymore. If I'm just like
True.
sitting
Very
here
true.
and be like,
Very true.
I'm good. I don't need anything.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before I will go into some more questions, ending questions, let me know if there is any question that you would like to ask don't be just a lurker out there. Speak
Don't
up,
be
speak
shy.
up if you have anything to say or ask. Let us know. Here is the time. Here is the time. Here is the time. Here is the time. Let us know. By the way, sorry that my place is
You're getting darker
without
and darker.
yeah lights, without lights. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, here is a question. Okay, from Minnie. Let me read it. Oh, it's not a question. It's a comment. So Minnie is saying that personally, from all those games that you have been working on, for her, Wild Frost is her favorite because of the winter. It is her favorite season.
Mhm.
And the music part of the game reminded her about Scotland. That
Cool.
it really delivers, like it would like connect people's soul with Scotland, the Scottish fields.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, she's saying that she will try her best to like learn English more and be out there and play the game and experience the music of it because she loves elves too, so she can connect with those elves too
No, right.
in the game. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, in Wild Frost, it was quite interesting because quite early on, the devs kind of, the goal was kind of to create a world or a music even that is not totally like dark medieval fantasy,
Okay.
but it's a bit more folky in a way. And ultimately, like I drew on a lot of different things, but there's definitely some Celtic elements in there as
I see.
well. And I mean, the Scottish element is definitely there in form of like bagpipes and Julian pipes that I've used. And it was kind of fun to like fuse even like Japanese and Chinese instruments with Western European or Northern European instruments and kind of try to get this new mixture that doesn't sound too much like, oh, this is this region or that region
True,
or this
true.
is this kind of style.
Just a
Kind
strict
of
vision,
trying,
yeah.
yeah, definitely kind of have this folky nature to it, I think,
I see.
because in the game it's kind of like you have this, it's kind of like a tribe or different
True,
tribes
true, true.
that kind of travel through the winter and fight the enemies. And I think it was kind of, I always imagine like them playing like the music in their own tribe or in the tent in the evening at the campfire, like kind of having that element to it, like always that kind of folky part. Yeah. So it's cool that it came across and reminded of Scotland. It's very nice.
Yeah. Thank you for the question and answer as well. Oh, and here's a question from the same person, Minnie. She's asking the purple creature. What kind of creature is that in White Frost? Who is like showing his face and
I'm not sure if she means the shade, maybe.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure either. Let me check the Steam page of the game and I will.
Yeah. So essentially, in the end game, when
She's
you're
saying
fighting.
that the purple creature is like showing its tongue in the Steam
Oh,
page.
that's called a muncher.
Oh, okay.
Um, when you, I mean, it's a card based game, right? Like, so essentially, you're building a deck of cards that you can play during the game, and between battles, as you travel on the map, you get to different points, and one of them can be the muncher,
Okay.
which is basically a creature that can eat cards.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So you can get rid of some cards
I see.
by feeding it to it.
I see.
Maybe that's what she's asking about. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm also not entirely sure about uh, all the creatures in the game.
Thank you again, by the way, for the question and the answer as well. Okay, any more question, ladies and gentlemen, hölgyek, urak, bármilyen kérdés? Any more question? Any more question? Let us know, let us know. Oh, by the way, Chucklefish Live was hyping also up the chat, saying your name.
Yes. Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, Chucklefish is the publisher of Wild Frost and Locomotive. So
Oh, okay.
two games I've
Oh, okay.
mentioned and I'm working on.
Okay. Nice. Welcome in. So they know everything, so they don't want to ask questions, I guess. Yeah.
I guess they know everything. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, or at least now they do. After I told you everything.
All the dark secrets, right?
Yeah.
My room got darker and darker from all those secrets. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know if there is any more question. Let us know. I will wait for one more minute and then I will go into my ultimate final question that I wanted to ask you about.
Wow. Final round.
The final round. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know. Let us know. Any more question? Dear ladies and gentlemen. You will be able to ask any question if you missed asking question on my Discord as well. So keep that in mind. So, on to my final question. My final question would be that summarizing all the topics that we had first, is there anything that we missed speaking of that we haven't touched before I ask another question of you? And you would like to talk about?
I think I've said everything. I've said too much. No. I think I've mentioned almost anything that could be interesting, I hope, or of value to someone who might
and
also.
Like I said, I appreciate your honesty so much.
Sure.
Thank you for that. Okay, so my final question would be, if you could think of an ultimate message that you always wanted to give for those people who consume your music, even if it was games or even if it was something other than games, what was that message, or what would that message be?
I'm not sure if I would have like a message in the sense that it's like a direct quote or anything, but I think. But it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, that ultimately I hope that whatever I'm doing connects with someone somehow, somewhere. Like that is ultimately the goal, right? Like that someone listens to it, has a emotional reaction, has a whatever kind of reaction to it, in some way, for them meaningful, I think is the word I would say would be important for me. And then maybe like what we talked about as well is like, if you enjoy something, don't be shy about saying that, either to other people or even to the person that created it. Like you would be surprised that even the biggest people, you think, sometimes they will read this kind of messages.
True,
and even they have self-doubts, as we all do. And
very true, yeah.
Yeah, if you enjoy something, whatever it is, music, a game, or whatever, leave a nice review or some nice words. If it's really something that is meaningful to you, you will be surprised like how many times it really means something to someone on the other end. Like people go through all kinds of things, right? Like might have a bad day or a day full of self-doubt or
True.
something bad happened in their life recently. Sometimes, I mean, ultimately, it's kind of like what we are also talking about, like this storm of toxicity or negativity and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like we can really stop it, but we can play our part kind of in
True.
creating a
And
better
I think,
environment.
yeah, I very agree with you. And I think that it's really important to educate people how they form their opinions, right? Not to be harsh. Because at the end of the day, I always joke with this, but it's true that people do not understand that it's not just one click and games are made, right? So it's really human
Yeah, for
beings who are
sure.
making these games, awesome games that they can connect to if they are down to it. And I feel like that's the misunderstanding, and what they really feel is that they do not see behind the curtain, they do not understand games, and that's why
Mm.
they end up being so harsh. And I also believe is that the huge problem, what I miss saying with that topic that we discussed earlier too, is that like people love to put their like inner self problems, everyday issues when they play and
Mm.
consume games or any type of media, any form of media. And it's a huge problem because if you are angry at anything that you have in life, you might should not be like play games around that time and take a break, right? Because like
Play a
you
different game, maybe
yeah,
that
exactly,
doesn't make
exactly.
you angry.
Imagine like people be angry at their because of their salary is low during the
Mm.
work time, and you know, playing a cozy game and say that this game sucks, and then when they are happy going back to the same game and saying this game is beautiful. Like I can see a
Right.
lot of people doing that, and it's crazy to me. Like why? Like it's like I don't know. And like you said, it's very true as well. I could totally connect with that. What you just said before is that like what people do not understand, that their very harsh opinion can shape the industry for the worse, and
Totally. I mean,
it's very bad.
ultimately, I think it will only come back to worsen their own
True,
experience as well, because I mean, less less people in the industry that can bring new ideas
true,
and fresh
true,
ideas, because developers or big studios need to be quote unquote safe, so they're
true,
just gonna
true,
fire everyone and create everything with AI and create the same few ideas
true, true.
over and over again. If that's what you want, then okay. But I think ultimately, like what I also talked about, like ultimately we want to experience different things, right? Like
True,
we want to
true.
experience a range of things, of games, different topics. Like for myself, I enjoy running around in Grand Theft Auto and shooting up cities, but I also enjoy planting crops in Stardew Valley.
True,
And
true, true,
like,
true, true.
there's no,
There is nothing
just
wrong
because you
with
do
that,
one
right?
thing,
Yeah,
yeah, just
exactly,
because you do one
exactly.
thing, you don't want to
Yeah,
do the other thing. And
exactly,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
like humans, we are like
yeah.
multifaceted, right?
And that's the
Sometimes you feel
problem,
like
that
this,
people love to put others into boxes, that you are, I don't know, you just into rock or into just rap or classical music, but it's
right?
not.
Yeah.
Like there are some people like you and me who like loves to you know, listen to almost every genre of music or to play almost every genre of games, and it can be happening, right? It's not a problem in my opinion.
It's definitely happening. Yeah,
True.
it's, and I think, yeah, and ultimately, if we lose more variety, it's never a good thing. I
True,
think,
true.
like, if anything, we would want more variety and diversity in terms of people creating games, coming up with new stories, uh, putting their own cultures maybe in the games, telling their stories. I think that's what is ultimately a lot more interesting than having like the same homogenous slop of the same kind of style of
True.
game over and over and over, and it's rehash. And it's kind of like also goes back to what we said in the very beginning, that uh, even there, of course, it takes a certain privilege and support system for people to be able to grow into
True.
those roles, right, where they can tell their stories and can create like their visions and stuff.
Very true.
And I think, if anything, we need to encourage that even more, uh, because ultimately, I think that's a lot more interesting.
Exactly. Exactly.
To It's kind of like you also don't like this to read the same story or experience the same story over and over. Is, at least for me, it's like boring. Like I want to
Exactly.
like games have this unique ability that they can give you interactivity, right? Like
True.
you're not just sitting there still consuming something
True. True.
maybe while you're on your phone and stuff like that, but you have to actually do
Be part
something.
of
And
it. Yeah.
yeah, and I
Actively.
think that is a great opportunity to really allow you to dive into totally different scenarios
True.
and stories, right? Like that's the fun part. Like I don't want to be, like I said at the beginning, I don't want to be a drug dealer in Miami, but I was playing Vice City. I don't want to be an or commander of orc armies, but I was able to play Warcraft. Like
True. True.
it
True.
doesn't
True. True. True.
all these things, and even more so, like there can be many different inspiring games about war,
True.
about abuse or whatever. Like there's a lot of room for different interesting stories, and even like culturally, like
True.
I would like what I mentioned, like it's super interesting to maybe play a game made by a team celebrating their culture that I don't have any idea about. It totally,
Suddenly learn about their culture, right?
yeah, we learn about it, and we might learn that, hey, that's I want to travel there. Maybe I
True. True. True.
do understanding for it, and kind of goes back to this connection, right? Like that
True.
we're ultimately making, hopefully.
True. 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 Very true. Yeah. Okay, thank you again for your
Thank
honesty
you.
and for your time. I really appreciate your honesty, like I said before, and thank you for the questions as well and for the answers to the questions from the chat. Like I said at the very beginning of our interview, I will need some more of your minutes, but for those who are watching us live or will be watching the VOD or the edited version of this interview later on this year on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. And yeah,
Thank you.
thanks everyone. Don't forget to wishlist or try out the demos of those games that our friend here has been working on as a music composer. And yeah, thanks everyone who joined
Thank
us for
you.